Well, first of all, good afternoon. Welcome along to Manx Radio's Mannin Line. Alex in for the chair for Andy. He will be back on Monday. It's an open line through until 1 o'clock. What would you like to talk about? Do you think there needs to be a safety review about roads around the island after there was an incident involving a wagon? Also, did you know, are you aware there are 27 health and safety consultations out on the Isle of Man Government Consultation Hub? And some of them are raising eyebrows as to possibly some of the draconian measures that are going to have to be taken because we're copycatting the UK. All of that and plenty more in the next hour. First of all, though, I do want to obviously hear from you this afternoon. 66 13 68. Do get on the phones and get in touch. But first, I have wanted to chat to Nick Kay from Kingsley Muti Pharmacy. He's been on the programme many times before. He can't join us in person today, but he is on the line. Good afternoon, Nick. How are you?
Yeah, good afternoon, Alex. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you very much for coming on. Obviously, this is going to relate to the meningitis outbreak that we've heard on the international news in Kent. The total number of confirmed cases now up to 29. You yourselves, have you been seeing an uptake in people asking a lot of questions, a lot of concern about this?
Yeah, Alex, we really have. So, it's right to say that, what's happened in Kent is an absolute tragedy, and that has actually caused lots of people to be concerned, especially people with, children of near university age. And we've seen a real increase in questions about, what are the signs and symptoms? What is meningitis? What about vaccines? What about antibiotics? So we are getting a real range of questions, Alex, that's quite rightly driving concerns across the island.
Now, for the uninitiated, start here. Now, this is an outbreak that's been identified as meningitis B. Now, how many different variations of meningitis are there?
Yeah, no, there are quite a few different types of meningitis, and meningitis is actually bacterial and viral. So it's a meningococcal disease. It's serious but uncommon. This one is caused by a bacteria, which actually can cause an inflammation of the lining of the brain, which is what causes some of the symptoms. And in the worst cases, then can actually go on to cause septicemia. The thing about it is that the onset can be quite sudden. So actually knowing some of the signs and symptoms and how to react quickly is really important. Like you say, there are different types of meningococcal bacteria, meningitis A, B, C, W, X, and Y. So this is a B outbreak, but it is serious if it goes wrong.
And then what sort of symptoms there? You mentioned obviously people need to be looking out for, and it can take hold quite quickly. What sort of symptoms would you advise people to be on the lookout for? Especially, I know we are quite a way away from Kent, but obviously generally in terms of meningitis, what should they look out for?
Yeah, no, and this is one of the things with meningitis, because some of the symptoms are quite common. They can be mixed up with other things, but the things that you'd be looking for really is sort of a high temperature, a fever, being sick, headache. And the one that we all sort of think about is the rash. So we always talk about meningitis of having that rash where if you depress it down with a glass or something clear, it doesn't disappear. It's not a blanching rash. It's not a whitening rash. It stays there. And also that isn't always the case that it develops, but it is a really important feature to look out for. Other things, bit of a stiff neck, a real dislike of bright lights, sometimes even drowsiness and seizure. But like I say, one of the things that's some of those symptoms, they could be sometimes mistaken for cold, flu, or even a hangover in some cases. So, the advice is really, if yourself or a loved one does have any of those symptoms, then just keep an eye on them, because it can rapidly escalate, and reacting quickly is really important at that time.
And how is it transmitted? Because obviously this is effectively a university outbreak, and from what I've read, it's where the bacteria lives in the sort of your nasal passages, back of your throat, and things like this. How easily is it transmitted?
Yeah, so that's a really good question, because actually it is spread by droplets, but it's actually relatively difficult to spread. It's not like you would imagine the COVID outbreak, where it was quite easy to spread. And actually 10% of people actually have this bacteria living in their throat and nose anyway, and don't even know it. But it's spread primarily through things like sharing drinks, maybe sharing a vape, sort of kissing. That sort of close personal contact is where those things are easily spread. So yeah, droplet based, but not easily spread, but is serious if it is spread.
At risk of putting people off their dinner, it's almost an exchange of bodily fluids thing, isn't it? Really, that
you said that, Alex, not me. I'm not going to put people off their dinner, but yeah, you're right. It is that sort of close personal contact is what we would say, absolutely. But you're right.
In terms of vaccines, now we've heard a lot about vaccines. I know that meningitis B has been part of the babies vaccine rollout since 2015. But I've read that vaccines only last or are effective for maybe 5 years. So what should people be considering, especially maybe if they've got teenagers who are going off island to, I don't know, sporting events, if older teenagers going to university, etc.?
Yeah, no, it's a really good question. So the vaccine, I think Public Health on the Isle of Man quite rightly are sort of saying as a response to the Kent outbreak, it's probably not worthwhile having a vaccine. However, what it has done is certainly raise the awareness of the vaccine, and like you say, the normal vaccination program is in those younger children groups. Private vaccines are available, and I think it's just checking with healthcare providers on whether or not it's appropriate for your individual sort of child or teenager. We're getting lots of queries. Like I say, maybe not in response directly to the Kent outbreak, would a vaccine be appropriate now, but actually to that wider point, I'm going away, I'm going off island, my child is going to university, it certainly would then be appropriate to seek that advice. I think one thing to say, though, is do check with, pharmacies and other providers around how that would look, because up until yesterday, the UK Health Security Agency had ring-fenced all stock. I still sit on the board of the National Pharmacy Association. We called for some release of some stock. 20,000 vaccines have been released, but we're calling for nearly 2 million to be released. If you imagine there are sort of 10, 11,000 pharmacies across the UK and Crown dependencies, if you release 20,000, that's only 2 vaccines per pharmacy. So, there should be some coming in the supply chain soon, but do double check first before sort of booking. And we've got multiple queries in as a business. I'm sure other businesses have across the island.
And so just to be clear to people who maybe are concerned or they want to go and get advice, do they need to see their GP first, or can they actually see a pharmacist or GP?
Yeah, so I think it's this is where it's really important. GPs hold the record. It's always right to double check with GP, but in this particular case, community pharmacies are a great place to get advice. We'd normally ask for some, we certainly as our own business, and I'm sure other pharmacies do as well. What's your vaccine history? Did you have all of the childhood IMS program done through all that? And then on that individual case by case basis, we can give some advice both on appropriateness and hopefully some update on supply chain.
Okay, thank you very much, Nick. Actually, I've got a phone call from Julian who's got a question to ask you. I know you're very busy, so I'm going to keep him short. But Julian, good afternoon. How are you?
Oh, hi, Alex, and hello, Nick. How are you?
Hi, Julian. Nice to speak to you again.
Good. I've got some concerns over the reporting of this outbreak of meningitis in Kent. There's no information on the prior health status of these individuals. There doesn't appear to have been any toxicology report relating to this club chemistry nightclub, which, by the way, is notorious for drink spiking. And there's a news article in Kent Online which reported flu-like symptoms in 2,200 pupils across 47 schools in Kent County a month before the outbreak. Did this cause some immune vulnerabilities in them? And a main question I've got for you, though, Nick, is, are you familiar with the 4 medical burdens of proof in infectious diseases called the Koch postulates? Have you heard of that?
No, you tell me about that, Julian.
Okay, so if you've got to prove that a disease is linked to a pathogen, the first of these 4 postulates states that the microorganism is only present in sick people. But even the BBC are reporting that many people carry this bacteria. Mm-hmm. So the number 1 hasn't been reached. The third one states that the suspected pathogen has to produce the same disease in another healthy individual by transferring it from the sick patient. That's never been done in humans with this bacterium because of ethical concerns. And the final one is you have to re-isolate that pathogen from the previously healthy host, which of course you can't do because they said it was unethical to do it in the previous one. So the assumption is that the bacteria is present, therefore it's causing meningitis, which is simply an inflammation of the meninges membrane around the brain and spinal cord. But what if it's not caused by the bacterium? What if there's a toxin of some kind or a severely depleted immune system that makes them more vulnerable to their own bacteria, which then kind of negates the whole spreading idea about this? What's their vitamin status in A, C, and D? What's their toxicity? Were they eating healthily? Were they getting enough sleep? Were they stressed?
Okay, Julian, just because Nick hasn't got all day. What's your question?
the question is the whole basis of this being some kind of a super spreader meningitis thing based on an 1887 theory of a guy that saw something in a thing and assumed it was that because it was there, even though it's in everybody pretty much. I mean, I know they say it's, it's up to 30%, but I suspect that almost everyone has some measure of this.
Julian, you said there, but you assume based on what? Nick has already stated to you that it was 10% of people have this. What are you basing it on? Is it just your own suspicions?
Well, let's look at it this way. They tested some people with a PCR test that the inventor, Kerry Mullis, said wasn't fit for purpose in terms of diagnosing disease in people at large scale. So the test in itself is compromised.
Julian, I asked you a question. What are you basing it on, please?
I'm basing it on the fact that everybody's got this disease. If the first postulate that says that it has to only be in a sick person, if everyone's got it, is there something else that's causing it?
Okay. Nick, we'll bring you in on there then.
Yeah, no worries. So I think it's always right to have the challenge and the sense check. I think that's really helpful. I mean, I think what I would be saying around this particular outbreak specifically is I think there is some things around, the confusion that I think is quite right, which is how is this a super spreader event and yet it's also spread in very few people, because you've seen sort of large numbers of people both being vaccinated and prophylactically treated with antibiotics, yet confirmed cases of 29. So I think those confirmed cases are being done on positive serology so that you can tell that there is actually an outbreak and there is meningitis present, and I think that's important to say. And then I think as far as those other things are concerned, the recommendation about taking antibiotics and having the vaccine are both precautionary measures which people will take up their own risk balance. If like Julian, they feel that there may be something else, those people won't take those up. I think if people do take them up and think that risk is different for them, then that's where they'll go, and it's right for people to have that choice. I think though, going back to the key point as well though, is watching out for those signs and symptoms, because if for whatever reason maybe we didn't choose to have those things, those signs and symptoms of how they can rapidly escalate is really important. And obviously we've already seen one death in Kent, which is absolutely tragic. So I think it's always right to sense check the advice, but that would be where I would sit. Right to have the choice, but let's have a look at that in a holistic way.
There you go, Julian. Does that answer your question?
Just quickly, Alex, you're always challenging me. Whenever I say something, you always say, where did you get that from? And I always give you a citation.
Yep.
If anyone looks up the bacteria, which is Neisseria meningitis, if you look that up on Wikipedia, in the epidemiology section, it states that it's caused by kissing, sharing vapes, drinks. If you go to the bottom of that, it says in brackets, citation needed. So it's making a statement from that. And I think Nick will also be familiar with the International Federation of Pharmaceutical Manufacturers and Associations. If you click on their citation link as to how meningitis is caused, it takes you to a 2019 news article on the World Health Organization website.
But my point, Julian, is, and Julian, I am going to cut you off because I'm getting a lot of people commenting saying you're overstepping the mark here. You are not a medical professional. The internet is not the university where medical professionals are trained. Okay? So actually, sorry, Julian, you've had your time today. Nick, thank you very much for your
no problem.
Your time. I know full well you've been incredibly busy, but thank you very much for giving up your time. If people want to go into Kingsley Muti and get in touch with you guys, of course, they can get this kind of advice from their local community pharmacy.
Exactly right. Yeah, community pharmacy is a great place to start with this advice and with this and lots of other things. So, Alex, thanks for having me on as always. I'll hopefully speak to you soon.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Nick. And once again, Nick Kay from Kingsley Muti. Very generous of him to give up his time last minute to give some advice there. And if you are concerned about what's happening with the meningitis outbreak in the UK, please do, of course, get in touch with a medical professional. And thank you very much once again. Just to state, of course, that Nick is a qualified pharmacist. In terms of anything else that you hear on the programme, it is not medical advice, and I would never suggest doing any diagnosis via the internet, especially Wikipedia, because let's be honest, Wikipedia, I could quite happily go and type something on Wikipedia. Yeah. But anyway, what else do we want to talk about this afternoon? Well, that we all know that feeling when you're on a narrow road, another car starts coming towards you and you have to work out what to do. Well, you've possibly seen a rather dramatic photograph that is on our website today, because it's effectively when a narrow road has become a little bit too narrow. The managing director of a local construction company is urging the DOI to carry out urgent safety review of one such road in the south following an accident that's involved one of his vehicles. A driver for the CCJ group was travelling on the Tossaby Road in the Erie last Thursday when, in an attempt to avoid an oncoming truck, he overturned into a roadside verge. And a quick Google search shows that it's not the only time an HGV's overturned on this very same road. So the managing director, Derek Clarkson, has submitted a comprehensive report on the route to the DOI, and he's also been talking to our Simon Richardson.
Good to obviously announce that the driver is now back at work, which is fantastic. Have to say, a very stressful event. You know, I can only imagine what it's like going through that situation. But we gave a lot of support, and yes, back at work, and still a little bit bruised, but fitting well.
That's good news, and of course it could have been so much worse. You've been concerned about the roads in this area for some time. Do you believe, in some respects, this was an accident waiting to happen?
Well, really, I mean, obviously, when you turn up at an incident like that, there's lots of things go through your head. First of all, the safety of your driver. You look at the vehicle, you look at the surrounding conditions. There's lots of factors with a heavy goods vehicle, which are fitted with telematics in our vehicles in terms of, you know, measuring braking, measuring speed, etc. The weight that was in the wagon as well in terms of payload. Was there any defects with the vehicle? Was there anything that happened with the driver? So there's lots of factors, and one of those factors principally was the road, the condition of the road, and some of the issues that I had seen. And then when you delve into that and you meet various other professionals through the situation, you find out that there's been multiple accidents there before. And for me, that changes what could have been an unforeseen event to something that's foreseeable, and there's a very big difference. And
what are the issues as you see them with this particular area?
So there's been several accidents before there, and you'll see I've referred to them before. You know, there was recently a concrete wagon that was in the exact same spot that was quite a serious incident and took the telegraph pole. We do know that there was a Gleister haulage vehicle many years ago in the same place. We know there was a JCK Limited wagon in that location in the same place, and unfortunately ourselves have suffered the same. There is a Manx Utilities pole on the corner of the bend, which is quite close to the corner of the road. That's on the bend, which causes the approaching driver of another vehicle to take a wider line. The centre line in the road is at its narrowest point at that bend. The other wagon coming the other way takes evasive action, and then it hits a verge. The verge, there's no narrow road signs, there's no verge masters, there's no supported infill to the ditch, there's no soft verge signs. And the minute that vehicle has unfortunately had to travel slightly onto the grass, the tarmac edge falls away sharply, and at that point the wagon has no ability to recover and get back onto the road. As I say, I know it's happened 4 times and have evidence of such, and for each wagon to end up in the same hole. Jokingly, the farmer that was there at the event has 2 gates, and I was very surprised. I said, "Why have you got 2 gates at a ditch?" And he said, "Well, they're not gates, it's just there's no point in me fixing the fence because wagons keep crashing here." So it becomes foreseeable.
Absolutely. Now, following this accident involving one of your vehicles, you have prepared a comprehensive report for the DOI. Have you had any response from them yet?
Until today, not really. We did, straight after the event, we did write to the department and give our suggestion that they should implement some mitigation on that road immediately, whether that be through restricting heavy goods vehicles or some traffic control, to give some warning. None of that's been done as yet. The DOI did respond and wish the driver very, very best wishes, and said that they would get in touch once they'd reviewed the incident properly, but it was subject to a police investigation.
There we go. That is the Managing Director of CCJ, Derek Clarkson, talking to Manx Radio's Simon Richardson. And the DOI have told us, Manx Radio, that the incident is currently the subject of a police investigation, so it's not in a position to comment at this time. So, are you familiar with this particular road? Are there other roads around the island just like it? We have to transport things in wagons, but do we have the road network that is safely able to do so? Do get in touch and let us know your thoughts. Also, thank you very much to some people. Let's go and have a little look at some of the text coming in. John says, "Hi Alex, no buses." No, it's a bus strike again today, of course. Let the train take the strain. A beautiful commute. Yes, we got the steam trains and the Manx Electric Railway operating, doing commuter services at the moment. Yeah, I'd much prefer that. I have to say, I did see a bus out this morning on Douglas Promenade, and I'm not sure if this is someone with a bit of a dark sense of humour in the DOI, but they've got these lovely, they've painted up in vintage livery buses, and it's a double-decker that says on the side of it, keeping the Isle of Man moving for 50 years, because 2026 is a year of celebrations for 50 years of bus services. And they had that bus out with that slogan on the side of it on the day of a bus strike. I'm sure someone's got a sense of humour out there. It did make me have a bit of a wry smile anyway. Thank you very much to Sai, who says, I'm fed up of listening to conspiracy theories. They get very tiresome. Just my opinion. Well, thank you very much, Sai. And also what Desmond says, doctors aren't the best place to go for health issues. I'm not sure where you'd like to go otherwise, Desmond. That's kind of the whole point of them. And John is on the phone and wants to talk about HGV vehicles. Hello, John. How are you?
Good morning, Alex. I'm fine, thank you. Yes. As I was saying to your producer, excuse me, I've driven heavy vehicles, buses, trucks and coaches for most of my working career, which has been since 1962, believe it or not, on the island, in the mainland UK, and in Western Europe. And although vehicles have certainly increased in efficiency, comfort, and one thing and another, I think whether driving standards have. The road they're talking about where this vehicle went off the road, fine, but I can't understand the driver's mentality in putting a 30-ton truck off the tarmac onto a grass verge with a dike behind it, that particularly after the amount of rain we've had just lately, there is just no support for it at all. Why do it?
Well, I think...
The road is not...
I think, John, from what I recall, and I'll gladly bring up the story to make sure I'm not saying anything out of line, but I think the road itself is designated as an HGV route. So I think that's part of the issue as to what they're saying, that actually he went down an HGV route, was faced with something coming the other way, and was trying to effectively just get past, and this was the outcome.
Well, yes, I know. I've used that road many times myself. And the thing is, you do not put your vehicle off the tarmac. If you're going down and something is coming the other way as well, and you know you can't get past it without taking 400 or 500 quid's worth of mirrors, offside mirrors off, you stop and look, weigh the situation up. One of you has then got to make the mind up, am I going to reverse to where I can get a little bit more room for the other guy? Let them go. You don't take your truck off the tarmac that sort of way. The easiest way out of it at the moment, I think, is put a weight limit of about 7.5 ton gross vehicle weight on it. Hauliers will scream, oh, we've got to go round the long way. But the majority of trucks now, they would find, would be using less fuel going down the Balamoda because they are in higher gears. Heavy vehicles are notoriously heavy on fuel when in low gears.
So do you think, John, that I found the line here, that route is approved for HGVs coming to and from Stony Mountain Quarry, which, of course, is an area where we do get a lot of stone. So the question is, do you think the road itself should be designated as such, or do you think the road itself should have upgrades?
No, I don't know about upgrades. Yes, certainly in certain places. I mean, I think it's even worse between St Mark's, leaving St Mark's and going up towards Erie. That first couple of miles is notorious. It's nowhere near, the lanes are nowhere near wide enough to get two vehicles past at all. So why are they allowed on it?
Well, I suppose that they'd turn around and state that, well, we've got to access the quarry somewhere with vehicles that can carry the amount. So maybe it's a case of that if we're going to have these quarries that are used for the national provision of stone, in the same way that, up at the Airs, of course, we use it for sand and gravel extraction with similar sort of size lorries, that the road network needs to be upgraded to accommodate these lorries before you can operate.
Well, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more, but they certainly shouldn't be using that road in the state. It's okay if you use common sense. It's as simple as that. It's obvious you can't get two vehicles past one another on lots of that road because the carriageway is just not wide enough.
Okay, John.
But if you've got two guys coming towards each other and you look and you think, well, no, we can't get past, what do? You stop, look at it, weigh the situation up before you decide to put a 30-ton truck on a grass verge that's going to disappear down into a dike.
Yep. Okay, John, thank you very much for your call and your insight as well. I really appreciate that. Have a great weekend.
You're welcome.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye. Lovely to hear from John there, first-time caller as well. Is this a problem? I mean, quarries and areas where you need to take big sort of wagons and vehicles are not normally on main arterial routes. They are sort of off the beaten track a bit. If you look at many previous quarries, we've had Dream Square Quarry, Mackle Quarry and Doon Quarry, all these ones, they are off the beaten track a bit. So the question is if we're going to need this stone for building, if we're not going to import it all, which of course would shoot the cost up unbelievably, that maybe the road networks, what is approved to be an HGV route, like this route was, needs to be upgraded, or we have to reduce the number of routes that are available to HGVs. But anyway, what do you think? 66 13 68. Now, let's go through some of your messages that are coming in. Thank you very much to George, who says, I feel strongly about people saying that big businesses affect small businesses. They said that years ago about B&Q coming here, and or that we didn't have the footfall for bigger shops. They have no vision. These places create jobs and offer choice and value. Small businesses will survive if they're good enough. It's called progress. Many small businesses can't pay pensions. Thank you, George. I'm not sure what that's referring to. Maybe, is that the story relating to Casey Foods closing down, another local wholesale foods company? It's closing after 55 years. If that's responding to that, thank you, George, for your opinion on that one. Let's have a look. Text to 566. Firstly, in Kent, in the south of England, there are lots of immigrants coming through that area. Are they screening people who enter the country? It's something for the Isle of Man to think about if they're allowing new people to move here. To be honest, world travel generally, whether it's about immigration or not, and your opinions on that, diseases will spread because we all travel the world a lot more. If you go back 100-odd years, we didn't travel to the UK as much as we do even here on the Isle of Man. So do you really want to get to the point of where you have to have medical tests for everywhere you go? Well, maybe you do, 566. Big John in Ramsey says, what is happening currently in the Middle East is a prime example of why we need solar and wind energy. We're dangerously reliant on gas and oil for energy. We must soon make the transition to wind energy. Thank you, Big John. I know Big John is a big supporter of green energy, but there is a point that countries that have invested heavily in renewables are not going to be affected as much as ones that haven't by the current change in the prices of fossil fuels, because we don't have our own supply of fossil fuels here on the Isle of Man. We can get into the discussion of the Kroger gas field, as it were, but we don't have our own supply. We are reliant on natural gas to power our power station. So, it is going to have some sort of an effect eventually. Now, we did mention on Manx Radio yesterday that, obviously, with the hedging that Manx Utilities have done, that we're not going to see an immediate effect. We heard from the chairman of Manx Utilities, John Wannenberg, MHK, about that. But it depends on how long it goes on. It will eventually have some sort of effect on us. And I suppose John's point is that once we've invested in, they say, solar and wind energy, no one can affect the price you're going to have to pay to have the wind blowing around or the sun. So... And thank you very much for that. Jude in Colby has said, on the meningitis issue, I hope parents and students are aware of the possibility of severe side effects of, oh crikey, it's got a name, hasn't it? Ciprofloxacin? I probably got that wrong. Basically, it's the preventive antibiotic that's given. This is known as a last resort antibiotic with restrictive guidance now. It can cause ruptures of tendons and other issues, including psychosis. These side effects are listed on the patient information leaflets, but people are not always aware. Please be mindful. Obviously, it's important to prevent the disease, but people, please need to be informed. If this was mentioned earlier in the programme, apologies, as I've only just tuned in. I'll have to fact-check that for you, Jude, because... I know for well that the vaccine is being handed out. Oh yes, so 10,000 antibiotics have been handed out so far in terms of the Kent outbreak. And I'm not surprised. I mean, it's like everything with drugs and medication, isn't it? That you have to make a choice. And I personally am very comfortable in living in society where, as you mentioned there, Jude, the information is on the leaflet and I have to make a choice. And if I get those side effects, that was my choice. And in fact, I would feel very uncomfortable if anyone else made that choice for me and told me that, you couldn't have it or you can have it because of these side effects. I suppose the choice and the balance here is that there's the possibility of severe side effects, but are you taking it because the other option is worse? And that's only a possibility, only a decision that the single person who takes the medication can take, Jude. But yeah, it is mindful. I would also say to people, always read the patient information leaflets. Every bit of detail. If it's a ton of small print, make sure you read all the small print before you do anything. So you go in with your eyes wide open. Even if it's a minor chance of something, at least you know before you make that informed consent. Thank you very much to C, who's talking about the wagons and the roads. These wagons are travelling far too fast along the road in question and are quite scary when they're driving towards you, as they seem to take up the whole road. Ask anyone who regularly uses this road about them. Well, there's 2 points there, see. If they're taking up the entire road, I think that's part of the point, that this road is not suitable for HGVs, despite being an approved route. In terms of the speed, well, you'd hope they'd be keeping to the speed limit. Is my only point I can make on that, really. And thank you to James, who says, just wondering how bus drivers are managing on 3 days a week pay. We were told in the past they were so badly paid that they're never attending food banks. Are they being paid during the strike? Well, under standard employment rules, James, I can tell you that workers who go on strike are not paid by their employer for the days they're on strike unless a specific agreement has been reached, and there's no verified indication that such an agreement is in place here. However, trade unions can sometimes provide limited strike or hardship payments to members, but again, there's been no confirmed detail published about any such support for the Isle of Man bus drivers in this dispute. As for concerns about low pay and food bank use, those claims have been raised in the past reporting and union commentary, but there's no official data confirming how widespread that situation is amongst drivers either. So we've sourced that from the Isle of Man government statements and also our own news coverage, and also general guidance on strike pay from Unite the Union. Yeah, I mean, part of how you pay into a union normally is that union builds up funds, so if you are going on strike, that there are strike payments available. Whether that's the case, I don't know. If there's a member of the union who would like to be able to confirm that for us, please get in touch and let us know. Right. By the way, don't forget tonight, just to remind you that if you are going out, something a little lighter side, the language and culture of the Isle of Man is going to be lighting up the skies over Douglas Bay this evening. Douglas Council, along with Culture Vannon, is marking 2 years since the capital became a city, and it's also celebrating the year of the Manx language. We've got a special drone display. It's a 15-minute display. It's getting underway at 7:30 tonight with a special soundtrack involved too. So make sure you get there early. Okay. A number of traffic and parking measures in place. Promenade parking closes from 5 p.m. So, get clear before this time. Alternative parking available in Chester Street and Shaw's Brow. And don't forget that the Loch Prom will be closed as well for safety reasons. And just a reminder, by the way, that the bottleneck car park is serving as a launch pad for the drones, so that'll close at 6. But I'm sure that'll be a fantastic sight over Douglas Bay this evening, something to look out for. And speaking of fantastic spectacles, tomorrow night...
Keen to shake off back-to-back home losses, FC Isle of Man will be hoping to propel themselves back to winning ways in the NWCFL Premier Division this weekend. With 3 home games left this season, the Ravens return to the Bowl on Saturday, with Cheadle Town the latest test to be put in front of the Ireland side. Join me, Rob Pritchard and Darren Timson for FC Isle of Man versus Cheadle Town, kicking off at 6 p.m. this Saturday. Manx Radio will be bringing you full live match commentary on our DAB and AM 1368 channels.
One architectural design company has particular expertise in achieving planning approval for a wide variety of projects, from landmark buildings to spectacular homes. Talk to the experts at Ellis Brown and get your project off the ground. For excellence in design, search Ellis Brown.
If you have children, pets or a house, talk to Peace of Mind about a will or power of attorney, which will help family members when it matters. Prices from $199 plus VAT. Find us on Facebook or call 632 610.
Corkhill Storage, Corkhill Storage. Corkhill Removals and Storage today. We'll store your goods day after day. Safe and secure around the clock. When it comes to storage, we do the lot. Click CorkhillRemovals.com.
Introducing Go Roam Ultra with double the data. You can now enjoy up to 40 gigabytes of roaming data across 37 countries, giving you even more data to browse, stream, message and share while you're away. So before you jet off, make sure you upgrade to Go Roam Ultra. Discover more at mt.im/GoRoam. Terms and conditions apply.
Stock arriving weekly at Ramsey Garden Centre. Discover potted spring bulbs, summer bulbs, seed potatoes, onion and garlic sets, wildflower seeds, sweet pea, microgreens, plantable biodegradable pots and propagation essentials. Grow smarter, greener, season after season with Ramsey Garden Centre.
Sun, sea and absolutely no stress. With Fly Direct, your perfect getaway starts the moment you take off from Ronald's Way. Whether it's an Algarve golf tour, a romantic break in Ibiza, or an adventurous road trip in Andalusia, it's your time to unwind. Book a full package holiday, a simple return flight only, or even just a one-way. Pick your dates, pack your swimsuit and make it a summer to remember. Fly Direct. No stops, just summer 26. Visit flydirect.co.uk.
A nation station, Manx Radio.
Manx Radio's Mannin Line for a Friday. Alex sitting in through till 1. It'll be Andy back on Monday. And a few, still got time to take some of your calls. 66 13 68 on any topic you'd like to discuss this afternoon. We have, of course, been discussing about the meningitis outbreak in the UK and the symptoms. And thank you very much to Nick Kay from Kingsley Muti for joining me on that one. Also, I did highlight that there's this new health and safety legislative review. There are 27 health and safety consultations in total on the Isle of Man government website, and there is a lot of concern as to what this is going to have serious consequences over the coming years in lots of areas, and it seems to be bringing UK regulations on the Isle of Man with little or no alteration. And thank you very much to Charlie, who sent me this email saying it's going to need dozens more health and safety officers to police it all. Oh, goody. Copycat UK, and then we have to employ more people in government. But I'd like to hear your thoughts on that. And have you taken part in the consultation? Do you think we'll be brave enough that if the consultation is considered more bureaucratic red tape, just Jobsworths, creating more jobs for Jobsworths, that we would be brave enough to say no? Actually, health and safety has a limit. Well, I'd be interested in your opinion. 66 13 68. Jude was on before asking about ciprofloxacin. I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce it. This is the antibiotics that's used as a preventative treatment after exposure to meningitis. We've done a bit of fact-checking for you, Jude. Thank you very much to my producer on this one. Although UK health guidance more commonly recommends a single dose of antibiotics or alternatives depending on the situation. But according to the UK Health Security Agency and the Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency, this antibiotic does carry known potential side effects, including rare but serious risks such as tendon injury and effect on the nervous system. Because of this, its use is guided very carefully and is generally only prescribed when the benefits are judged to outweigh the risks. However, in the context of meningitis exposure, the risk of developing life-threatening infection is considered significant, and preventative antibiotics are routinely recommended for close contacts to reduce that risk. So it's kind of the point I was making before, that in terms of there are risks, but which is the bigger risk? And you have to judge that yourself. And once again, always read all the details about anything before you make that choice. So what else do we want to talk about here this afternoon? Well, let's go to a few of your texts. It's very quiet on the phones. 66 13 68. It's because everyone's out in the glorious sunshine, isn't it? There we go. Hi, Alex. Just wondering when the consultation is happening on ID at the borders. Surely it's a no-brainer. Surely we need to know who is arriving on the island. That's a very, very good point. It's one that's been made by the Chief Constable when he's been on Mannin Line in the past. And, do you feel that we should be keeping more of an eye on people coming and going? Or is it more control over your civil liberties? Is it one of these things that we punish the many, trying to, keep the few in line? I'd be interested to hear. Thank you to the texter who says, Alex, once the next strike action is complete, do we just get back to normal? Well, I'd imagine so. Hopefully, there's going to be a resolution that will stop the strike action going on much further. And that's what hopefully the unions and also the DOI are hoping for. Gaz says, a word of caution. If people vote at the next election for candidates simply because they know them, we will end up with the same lot who've permitted Manx Care to miss targets for operations and treatments, increase waiting lists and reduce bed numbers. Thank you, Gaz. I mean, there is a point there in a small community, isn't there? That you vote for, the person that you know who is either your local postman, your milkman, you like them, they're nice people, and, they've got a passion for the island. Whether they have the skills, the knowledge, and the wherewithal to get into national government and make change, as someone maybe who's got a lot of business experience, but might not have the same social community connections, which one is better? Because in theory, in a democracy, anyone can stand. But do let me know your thoughts. 66 13 68 is the number to call. Mark is on the line. Hello, Mark. How are you?
I'm fine, sir. How are you?
I'm not so bad. Do you want to talk about roadworks?
Yes, it was. I mean, we're all used to running up to a roadwork and you get a reduction in speed over what the speed limit for that road is.
Mm-hmm.
Interestingly, I think it was interesting, yesterday and the day before going into Douglas, there's a 50 mile an hour stretch of road. Well, they had a 30 and a 40, then 30, then 40, then national. So the workers were actually increasing the speed limit from 50 to unlimited. I'm not quite sure they're allowed to do that.
Yeah, that does
sound... I just wondered, if you'd have got caught by the police, could you have gone, but the workers have said it's all right?
Do you know what, Mark? I wouldn't recommend trying it just in case.
No,
but I do take your point that speed limits over here.
If you didn't know that road,
no,
you didn't know that road because it alternates between 50 and 70. If you didn't know that road, you could I just thought it was interesting. That was all.
I mean, I've got a car, Mark, that tells me the speed limit I'm meant to be on based on what is obviously put on some digital sat-nav system somewhere. And it's amazing how the northern end of Douglas Promenade is 30 miles an hour according to the signs and what's painted on the road. But my car, someone at the DOI has obviously put the information in that says it's 20 miles an hour for the whole length of the prom.
Well, you've obviously got higher tech than me.
It's not that high a tech, Mark, but no, it's a very good point. Thanks very much for your call. Great to chat to you.
Thank you. God bless.
Bye. From Mark there, when it comes to speed limits and temporary speed limits, they do, jump up and down and they yo-yo all over the place, don't they? And you find that one speed limit might have been snuck in here. And sometimes you have to try and work out what is the speed limit, because you're not in a built-up area, but it might be an area which is semi-built up. It might be a 30, it might be a 40, it might be a buffer zone. It can be difficult to follow. But thank you very much for that. Patrick's on the line, wants to talk about the tide. Hello, Patrick.
Hello, Alex. Alex, the people getting connecting flights or connecting trains or anything, this bit about the boats being delayed because of tidal. Where's it at? Is it Haitian? Is it Liverpool? There's no information.
That's a very good point, actually. The tidal information, I'm going to see if it's on our news story now. For those who've just tuned in, this is that sailings are being rescheduled due to tidal conditions, and it doesn't say whether the tidal conditions are the Isle of Man or not. It just says tidal conditions. Now, I do know full well that we have a request in there was an email sent this morning to the DOI. The government communications, here we go, at the DOI. There was sent at 10:45 this morning asking about whether this is to do with the dredging work in Douglas and the works, obviously, since the Manxman ran aground there last year. But we haven't had a reply yet from the DOI on that, I'm afraid.
Okay. Alex, as long as it's nothing to do with Liverpool, because after spending all that money, double the amount on the post, it'd be awful if it was there, wouldn't it? Let's be honest, it'd be a disgrace.
It would. No, that's a very good point, Patrick. Thanks for your call on that one. It is a good point. I know full well that Liverpool, obviously, all ports have to be dredged, but you would expect that dredging should be a continual thing and it shouldn't be getting in the way of services. So we will hear back from the DOI as soon as we get a response. As I said, we sent that email at 10:45 this morning asking why the sailings have been rescheduled because of tidal conditions, and we wanted more details about that. So as soon as we get anything from the DOI, we will, of course, pass it on to you here, dear listener at Manx Radio. Now, thank you to Elle, who texted in saying the only reason the Tynwald Hill Road is designated for HGVs is because it was the designated haul route when they were transporting materials for the breakwater. At that time, it was a one-way road, not two-way. Ah, that's interesting. So is this maybe a historical leftover? I don't know. Thank you very much to Michelle, who says the DOI don't feed information to Google or any sat-nav company. They screen traffic orders and lift the information themselves. I think there is a website, isn't there, that the DOI do update with all the traffic information. Because we tried to use it for Roadwatch, and it was dreadful. But I believe it is still being used. You'll find it on the government Roadwatch site. And I think that's what I was referring to. If I can find it, I will, of course, let you know. But in terms of the traffic, travelling and motoring, and I can't find it. Oh, there we go, Roadwatch. So the system, One Network, that's what it's called. One Network. So one, as in a word, .network is where you'll find all the traffic information and all the information about the island's roads, and all the different roadworks, speed limits, etc. are on there. Thank you very much to the anonymous texter who says, regarding the Mannin offshore wind farm, I believe the turbines are over 1,000 feet high, measuring over half the height of Snaefell, which is 2,065. It's not, it's 2,036. Sorry to bring some facts into there. Also, just to fact check there's no confirmed figures showing that the Mannin turbines exceed 1,000 feet. So sorry about that. The current plans suggest heights of 250 to 300 metres, which is roughly 820 to 980 feet max. Snaefell, as I mentioned, 2,036 feet, so the largest turbine proposed will still be under half the height of Snaefell. I'm not denying it will be big, but once again, it's good to have the facts and not just scaremonger with hyperbole. Thank you to S, who messages in saying, I think the phrase digitally excluded is misleading, as it suggests that older people have been actively excluded from online activities because they are too old to learn. This isn't true. I'm in my 70s, and the digital age arrived in my workplace when I was in my early 30s. I learned to use computers to keep working. People in their 80s would have been in their 40s, so age is no excuse. People have chosen not to engage with technology, which is their right, and they should still be catered for, but they have excluded themselves. That's an interesting point. If you've decided not to embrace the digital age as time goes on, is that someone else's fault? If the world has embraced new technologies and you don't want to embrace the new technology, is it the world's fault? Should they be making exceptions for you? I'm asking the question. I'm not passing an opinion. Ian says, I feel enough is enough. A lot of people are now fed up with government bringing in consultations and legislation that, in reality, the majority of the public don't actually want. Most of us just want to see improvements in important areas such as health and roadworks, rather than more and more control over individuals here. Thank you, Ian. I presume he's responding to my point I made about the 27 consultations out for health and safety legislation and how disruptive it will be to a lot of the services and work on the Isle of Man if it is actually brought in and copied and pasted from the UK. Garth says, an HGV heading towards a driver in a car can naturally appear to be travelling fast. I know this, as until last year I spent 31 years driving them. Some car drivers seem to have a natural fear of large vehicles, especially on narrow roads. Most HGV drivers have years of professional driving experience and won't do anything to jeopardise their licences, as they take so long and are expensive to obtain. Thank you, Garth. Nice to hear from the other side there. And that Victoria's been on saying, sorry, Alex, I missed the first half of the programme, but I wanted to ask about the use of antiseptic solutions such as TCP, which doesn't seem to be available anymore. Is it any use in the early stages of suspected meningitis? I'm not going to lie, I hadn't heard this one. We've done a bit of fact-checking with the UK Health Security Agency. There's no evidence that antiseptic solutions such as TCP are effective in preventing or treating meningitis, let's call it that, at any stage, according to the NHS and the UK Health Security Agency. Meningitis is a serious bacterial infection that develops inside the body, and it cannot be stopped or treated by external antiseptics. Preventative measures for close contacts may include prescribed antibiotics or vaccination, but antiseptic use on the skin or throat does not play a role in prevention. So there we go. And a final one from Texter 557 who says, what is the role of a minister? I'm asking after being refused information from one.
Save 17% on the Loganair tartan sale with promo code SALE17. Book now at loganair.co.uk. T/Cs and exclusions apply, subject to availability.
Most builders start with a hammer and saw. Manx Construction start with ideas and imagination. For new build, extension or home office, Manx Construction offer full service from planning to completion. Call Tony on 452 688.
Simply income protection from Kestrel Insurance. A choice of benefits. Simple underwriting and peace of mind with a regular income for up to 2 years if you're unable to work due to illness or injury. Kestrel Insurance is registered with the Isle of Man Financial Services Authority.
LVW Law are a team of experienced advocates, solicitors and barristers, trained mediators and international arbitrators. Let them help you achieve the best possible outcome in your case with their wide range of legal services for businesses, corporate and private clients. You can trust the LVW Law team to fight for you every step of the way. Visit lvwlaw.com and make an appointment today. Your first 30 minutes are free. LVW Law, they're on your side.
Get your garden ready for spring with Riley's. Seed potatoes to garden machinery. Get down to Cool Road, Braddon for everything you need. And all your pet supplies and birdseed too. Leap into spring with Riley's Garden Centre.
EVF, fueling the island and fueling you. With a great range of fresh foods and everyday essentials at our filling stations. And always great offers too. Ellen Vannin Fuels.
So, Texter 557, you're asking what the role of a minister is. Well, a minister in the Isle of Man government is a political office holder responsible for leading a department, setting policy direction and making the decisions within that department's legal powers. According to Tynwald procedures and government guidance, ministers are accountable to Tynwald and ultimately to the public for how their department operates. However, in terms of information, there is no automatic right to receive all information directly from a minister. Access to information is governed by the Freedom of Information Act, which allows requests to be made formally with certain exemptions that departments can apply. So I hope that's helped you out there. That's it. Thank you very much for your company over the last couple of weeks as well. Thank you very much to my hard-working producer, Chris Quirk. Thank you very much to Nick Kay from Kingsley Muti for joining me today. Andy Wins will be back on the Mannin Line on Monday. I hope you get to go out and enjoy the weather. I hope you enjoy the drone show over Douglas Bay this evening, celebrating the Year of Our Language. Have a wonderful weekend. Take care. Ta-da.